Hi, Ciara, how are you?
Hi, Brandon. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
It's the Ciara and Breandán show on mass media here with our coffee chats. I've still got my coffee. I see you don't have yours,
No,
Ciara.
I have another bottle of water. It's too hot today for coffee.
Yeah, yeah. Well, listen, it's Friday, so we have a chat. It'll be a couple of minutes, something that's interesting and hopefully informative for our B2B clients and anybody who's viewing in. And today we're going to talk about content. So specific to LinkedIn, first of all, how to create really good content that attracts a lot of engagement and that maybe places people where they want to be placed, which is as an authority figure for their own offering or their own service. And how to do that and the little tricks that come about with it and how to practice and get better and all the rest of it. Because you are the guru where it comes to all things content and all things LinkedIn, Ciara. So there's one thing I want to chat to you about first that people will come across if they start doing any bit of research into good content, and that's algorithm. So tell us about what does that mean? What is an algorithm, and how does it affect Facebook, LinkedIn, all the rest?
I suppose the algorithm is kind of, in basic terms, kind of what's showing up on your newsfeed. So just looking specifically at LinkedIn, it's interesting. One thing to know about it is it rewards native content. So when you're posting on LinkedIn, you want to post directly on LinkedIn. You want to avoid links to your websites and even videos. You want to avoid links to YouTube. If you have a video, post it directly to LinkedIn, because what it does then is it rewards the fact that you're posting directly to LinkedIn itself, and it's more likely to show up in the algorithm, more likely to show up on other people's pages. Obviously, different algorithms work different ways, but that's kind of how LinkedIn works. And I suppose another thing to keep in mind about the LinkedIn algorithm is that it tracks how many likes you get in the first few minutes of your post. And the more likes you get, the more likely it is to show up on other people's news feeds, for example. So now some people might say this is cheating. I disagree. A little thing you can do if you're struggling, a little tip, is if you can just message your friends and ask them to like your posts in the first couple of minutes, just to get it up on that algorithm, because it will really kind of amplify how the amount of people that will see it in the long run. So that's just like a little basic rundown there on algorithms.
That's provided you have friends.
That's very true.
Okay. So the algorithm really it picks up on all of these different things and it moves certain posts up the way and certain ones it doesn't. Is that the way it works?
Absolutely, yeah.
And to keep a tidy algorithm, you're saying post within LinkedIn as much as possible. Sometimes people may be.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes you do need to post in, links to different things, and that's absolutely fine. But the general rule, I suppose maybe at the start when you're just kind of trying to get your stuff out there, it's very important to post directly onto LinkedIn.
Okay. So that's the boring algorithm, boring but necessary piece.
That's out of the way now.
out of the way. But let's talk about grabbing people's attention. So how do you do that through content?
Absolutely. So I suppose this is kind of, I mean, I'm talking about LinkedIn, but I mean, you can apply this across all forms of social media. I suppose you can start off by sharing an opinion, a personal experience, success story, or even ask questions or ask for advice, because that way you're kind of encouraging people to engage on your content, to like it, share it, to comment, share their opinions. And again, that will also, referring back to the algorithm, I know it's a bit dull, but that'll also bring it back up on other people's feeds, the more engagement it's getting. So I suppose if you're kind of posting something that encourages people to engage with it, I mean, it's going to be good for you, it's going to be good for them, it's going to be good for you in terms of who's seeing your posts. Also, people tend to stop and look at images and graphs. So I suppose if you have a lot of data, which can look a bit overwhelming or boring or not very attractive, but if you really want to get that information out there, make it into a graph, and people are more likely to stop and look at it again, comment on it, engage. So that's super important there. Okay. In terms of the images itself, there's loads you can do with images, really. You kind of want your image to consist of both colors and text. So what I'm going to do first is just give a little bit about the text, because I feel like sometimes that gets a bit overlooked, but it is important. So I suppose just in terms of the font of the image, now this is if you're creating something from scratch, which you can do very easily. I think you mentioned in the previous video, you can use Canva. There's loads of different tools that you can use for free to create these kind of images. But yeah, so you want to think about your font. So you want your font to kind of represent your message, and you kind of want it to have a personality in a way. So for example, you don't want to use too many fonts, because it will kind of look sloppy and overwhelming, and that's not really the vibe that you want to kind of advertise for yourself. It's also important to match your text to your image. You want to use colors that complement each other. You don't want your text to blend into the colors. You want it to stand out. And I know these might seem like very simple things, but you'd be surprised the amount of people that kind of skim past it, and also logos. Like, yes, absolutely, you want to have your logo in your image. Yes, it's important to have, particularly at the start when you're just trying to get the word out there about your business. But at the end of the day, you don't want it to be the focal point of your image. You want to just kind of have it as a side, and we kind of think of it as the rule of thirds, and just make sure it's in a third of the image and not taking over the whole image. So that's just a bit of rundown on the text there. I don't know if you have anything to add yourself.
Yeah. I think what I find interesting in terms of posts that I would read is if people are genuinely giving a lot. So if you give a lot of insight into whatever it is, I mean, gone are the days when you should be afraid to share for the fear that you won't be getting business for it or anything else. I think if you can give in your post as much information as you can, as much insight, as much direction, as much strategic content, I like those posts that are really meaty in what they give out in terms of information. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think you have to give to receive. And I think it's like that with everything. You have to spend money to make money. You have to put in effort to get effort back. And I think, it's kind of what you're saying with the posts. You want to get a lot of information, and that will kind of drive you to want to follow them on social media and want to engage with them again, because they're giving out stuff that's just a bit more interesting than, a random picture here and there, and stuff that isn't really useful, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And listen, don't be afraid of losing business because people are just going to take what you say and apply it. It's like a knee surgeon, if he went on talking about this is exactly how you should do knee surgery. It won't really compel people to go and get a knife and open up somebody's knee, but it will make them think about how great that knee surgeon is. Yeah. What else should we be looking at, Ciara?
I suppose when you're creating the image, you've got your text sorted now. I suppose it's interesting to kind of look at the types of colors. So I find this particularly interesting because colors can mean a range of different things to different people, and kind of make people feel different things, and they associate it with different things. So, for example, if you're using a bright orange, that can kind of give off a creative and inviting vibe. Whereas if you have a very kind of strong dark red, it kind of symbolizes power and importance. And I suppose that's why when you think about it, all the stop signs, on the road will be red, and a lot of call to action kind of clicks on things would also be red, because it gets your attention. And that's why they do it. That's why they use the color red, And it's not just the different colors as well, it's even different shades of colors. Like different shades of the same color can trigger different emotions. So for example, depending on the type of green shade you have, I mean, one type of green might give off kind of a refreshing and peaceful and restorative tone, whereas another type of green people might associate with greed and jealousy. So it's kind of important to keep those things in mind. And a few other just interesting color psychology tips. Blue is actually the most preferred color in all consumers. So people seem to be drawn to the color blue. Violet is the most popular color in female consumers, and then pink is actually a really interesting color because to some people it kind of represents, you know, happiness and love and positivity. But some people kind of associate it as an emasculating color or really emotionally overwhelming. So it's important to really know your audience when you're working with the color pink, and all the colors for that matter, because as I said, they all mean different things to different people. And then just as an extra tip on the end, some colors to avoid maybe would just be the metallic colors, you know, gold, silver and bronze, and not for any psychological reason, for the simple reason that they don't show up that well on your screens. They kind of get a bit faded and lost. So that's just kind of general rundown on some colors there, which I find very interesting.
Yeah. And listen, the important thing I think is, especially for people who are trying to get a handle on content maybe for the first time, is to keep it simple. You may hear something within this conversation that resonates. Don't try everything new at once, but keep it simple. And the other thing I guess about text is when I see a good long piece on LinkedIn, I think people are clued into it now more than maybe even a year ago, but to space it out nicely, because the eye, I think, really needs almost breathing space in itself when it's reading. It gets overwhelmed if it sees no break in paragraphs or anything like that. It's good to put one or two lines space, one or two lines.
Absolutely, you're so right. You know, spacing, bullet points, underlining things, putting certain things in bold, anything to break up just that very, very heavy text if you've got a lot of information that you want to put out there. I think that's very important.
Yeah, definitely. And to keep a mix, as you said, to give maybe the personal stories sometimes, to give real insights, all that sort of stuff, and avoid the selling is probably a case in point as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I suppose as you mentioned, like humans love other human stories. You know, we love to hear success stories. We love the story of, you know, someone struggling and then, you know, now are doing so well because they did these few simple things. Like everyone loves to hear those things, and I think particularly now it kind of gives people a bit of hope, really. You know, with the current situation and everything. So those are stories that people love. Now, obviously, you don't want to be posting stories about yourself every single day because nobody wants to see that. But I think it is important to have the odd personal touch here and there, and just to kind of keep it interesting. And it makes you and your company or whatever you're selling, whatever you're doing, it gives it a more human aspect, and people like that.
Great. Listen, that's loads of great tips today, Ciara. Thanks a million.
All right, thanks a million, Breandán.
Good. I'm going to finish my coffee now. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.